Who are these people?
Speaking of what's going on with America
So
and what
yeah,
we're doing.
so this is an opinion piece by Nick Trust. So I hadn't heard of him before, so I had to look him up. So he's an investigative journalist in the line of Max Blumenthal, Aaron Mate.
Okay.
He's done a lot of work for Tom Dispatch, as you can see here. He's also written for the Intercept as well. He has a couple of books as well. He's actually based in New York, actually. So he actually went to Rutgers in Jersey. Shout out to Rutgers. But what I think, not to say he's known for this, but what he's kind of been known for is kind of looking at AFRICOM and all their shady dealings in Africa and basically being, shut out as far as investigating the true meaning as to why AFRICOM essentially exists and what are they really doing in Africa.
Okay.
So like I said, Reef sent this to me, and I probably might just put this clip in Kamala Luquano's channel as well.
Sure.
But this is what he reported on. So getting TS, but U.S. Africa Command at CARICOM. Actually, until I read this article, I didn't know that was what CARICOM was. I thought it was just CARICOM Command. The idea
Gotcha.
that there's US attached to it, it was just kind of like, oh shit. Like, but being in Africa, it makes a whole lot more sense now, given, so pardon my
Okay.
ignorance, but, what US Africa Command doesn't want you to know. What's the US military doing in Africa? It's an enigma, right in the riddle, straitjacketed in secrecy, and hogtied by red tape. Or at least it would be if we were up to the Pentagon. 10 years ago, I embarked on a quest to answer that question at Tom Dispatch, chronicling a growing American military presence on that continent, a buildup of both logistical capacities and capabilities and outposts, and the possibility that far more was occurring out of sight. Keep your eye on Africa, I concluded. The US military is going to make news there for years to come. Yep. There we go. I knew I had a story when US, I'm just saying CARICOM from here out, fair to answer basic questions honestly. And the command's reaction to the article told me that I also had a new beat. Not long after publication, AFRICOM wrote a letter of complaint to my editor, Tom Engelhardt, attempting to discredit my investigation. I responded point by point in a follow-up piece. The command claimed the US was doing little on that continent, had one measly base there, right? And was transparent about its operations. I would encourage you and those who have interest in what we do to review our website, www.caricom.mil, and the new Defense Department special web report on US Africa Command at this link. Wrote its Director of Public Affairs, Colonel Tom Davis.
Okay.
A decade later, the link is dead. Davis is a functionary at Pima Community College in Tucson, Arizona, and I'm still keeping an eye on AFRICOM. A few months later, in fact, I revealed the existence of a previously unknown AFRICOM investigation of an airstrike in Nigeria that killed more than 160 civilians. A former secret 2017 Africa Command document I obtained called for an inquiry into that US Nigerian operation that was never disclosed to Congress, much less the public.
Okay.
Since then, AFRICOM has steadfastly refused to offer a substantive comment on the strike or the investigation that followed, and won't even say it will release relevant documents to members of Congress. Last month, citing my reporting, a group of lawmakers from the newly formed Protection of Civilians in Conflict Caucus called on Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin to turn over the files on, and answer key questions about the attack. The Pentagon has so far kept numb. Has AFRICOM then, as Davis contended so long ago, been transparent? Is its website the go-to spot for information about US military missions on that continent? Did its operations there remain few and innocuous? Or was I onto something? A kinder, gentler, combatant command. From its inception, according to its first commander, General William Ward, AFRICOM was intended to be a different kind of command, less hardcore, more Peace Corps. AFRICOM's focus is on war prevention. Deputy Assistant of Defense, Secretary of Defense for African Affairs, Reef Breland, said in 2007, rather than war fighting. In 2012, Ward's successor, General Carter Ham, told the House Armed Services Committee that small teams of American personnel were conducting a wide range of engagements in support of U.S. security interests. Years later, retired Army Retaliate General Tom Bullock, who served at AFRICOM from 2013 to 2015 and headed Special Ops Command Africa into 2017, would offer some clarity about those engagements. Between 2013 and 17, he explained, American commandos saw combat in at least 13 African countries: Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Central African Republic, Chad, Congo, Kenya, Libya, Mali, Mauritania, Niger, Somalia, South Sudan, and Tunisia. 6 troops, he added, were killed or wounded in action in at least 6 of them. Between 2015 and 2017, there were at least 10 unreported attacks on American troops in West Africa alone. A month after that January 2017 Nigerian airstrike, in fact, U.S. Marines fought al-Qaeda militants in a battle that CARICOM still won't admit took place in Tunisia. That April, a U.S. commander reportedly killed a member of warlord Joseph Kony's Lord Resistance Army in the Central African Republic. The next month, during an advise, assist, and accompany mission, 38-year-old Navy SEAL Kyle Milliken was killed and 2 other Americans were wounded in a raid on a militant camp in Somalia. That same year, a Navy SEAL reported shot and killed a man outside of a compound in ISIS flag in Cameroon. And that October, CARICOM was finally forced to abandon the fiction that U.S. troops weren't at war on the continent after ISIS militants ambushed American troops in Niger, killing 4 and wounding 2 more. We don't know exactly where we're at in the world militarily and what we're doing, said Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, then a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee, after meeting with Pentagon officials about the attack. In the 2010s, I would, in fact, reveal that the U.S. had conducted at least 36 named operations and activities in Africa, more than anywhere else on Earth, including the Middle East. Among them were 8 127E programs named for the budgetary authority that allows special ops forces to use foreign military units as surrogate in counterterrorism missions. More recently, I will report on 11 of those proxy programs employed in Africa, including one in Tunisia, codenamed Obsidian Tower, and never acknowledged by the Pentagon, and another with a notoriously abusive Cameroonian military unit connected to mass atrocities. 5 of those 127E programs were conducted in Somalia by U.S. commandos training, equipping, and directing troops from Ethiopia, Kenya, Somalia, and Uganda as part of the fight against the Islamic militant group Al-Shabaab. In 2018, 26-year-old Agnes Conrad of Army Special Forces was killed in an attack on a small U.S. military outpost in Somalia. Such outposts have been long a point of contention between AFRICOM and me. The U.S. maintains a surprising number of bases in Africa, I wrote in that initial Tom Dispatch article in July 2012. Colonel Davis denied it. Other than our base at Camp Lemierre in Djibouti, he claimed, we do not have military bases in Africa. I had, he insisted, filed that article before CARICOM could not get me further outpost material. If he had waited, we would have provided the information requested, which would have better informed his story. I had begun requesting information that May, calling in additional questions in June and July, and then, as requested, put them in writing. I followed up on the 9th, mentioning my looming deadline, and was told that CARICOM headquarters might have some answers for me on the 10th. That day came and went, as did the 11th. Tom Dispatch finally published a piece on July 12th. I respectfully submit that a vigorous free press cannot be held hostage waiting for information that might never arrive, I wrote Davis. When I later followed up, Davis turned out to be on leave, but CARICOM spokesperson Eric Elliott emailed in August to say, Let me see what I can give you in response to your request for a complete list of its facilities. Then for weeks, CARICOM went dark. A follow-up email in late October went unanswered. Another in early November elicited a response from spokesperson David Heitch, who said that he was handling the request and would provide an update by week's end. I'm sure you won't be shocked to learn that he didn't. So I followed up yet again. On November 16th, he finally responded. All questions now have answers. I just need the boss to review before I can release. I hope to have them to you by mid next week. Did I get them? What do you think? In December, Heitch finally replied, all questions have been answered, but it's still being reviewed for release. Hopefully this week I can send everything your way. Did he? Ha. In January 2013, I received answers to some questions of mine, but nothing about those bases. By then, Heitch too had disappeared, and I was left dealing with CARICOM's chief of media engagement, Benjamin Benson. When asked about my questions, he replied that public affairs wouldn't provide answers, and so I should file a Freedom of Information Act request. Oh, God. To recap, 6 months later, Benson recommended I start again, and in good faith, I did. In 2016, 3.5 years later, I received a partial response to that FOIA request. 1 page of partially redacted, not to mention useless information about, Camp Lemuel and nothing else. Thoughts so far?
I mean, I think it's pronounced AFRICOM. AFRA. You're
AFRICOM, yeah.
saying CARICOM, which sounds like a weird game, like on the Atari, you know?
Yeah. Oh, you know, I gotta read.
Dude, I can't either. So we're both out of luck most of the time. But no, I mean, yeah, it's. I mean, essentially, we have multiple army bases in Africa that are not being like
reported.
Yes.
I mean, like
and who was it?
One. Yeah,
in chat earlier, said Starlink, who supplies military logistics coordination to Ukraine, who runs Starlink. Collin, do you know? He also recently bought Twitter for a cool 49 billion.
Musk.
Yeah, there you go.
So actually,
so they're taking their talents to
now.
Africa, Starlink.
Yeah.
FYI.
So we're carrying signs now, said in chat, 800 plus bases since Duya's first term, and only 1 in all of Africa. We know we have bases every few miles surrounding Somalia. Did mapmakers move Somalia out of Africa?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, old W.
Right.
Waving to mass destruction.
Basically, all this song and dance to ask how many bases you got, and they can't answer.
No. How did my thing get frozen again? Why is it doing that? Is my camera. They can hear me, luckily, but I'm now
You're frozen.
This fixed it last time. Yeah, I'm working on it. Here. And then I go here, and then I think if I here.
Welcome to live, folks.
Did that fix it? No.
No.
Why? Maybe now? No.
No.
Whatever.
I mean, you can stay like that.
Yeah, it's fine. Hold on. I fix these.
Your position doesn't change much.
No, pretty much. But since I'm doing the next story, I might as well go ahead and see if that fixes things. Back to studio mode. Back to virtual this thing, and see if I can hit that again. Let me do this. Hold on. No, still no.
No.
Interesting. Why? I don't get it. Anyway, whatever. I'm gonna have to figure out why it's doing that. I might need a new webcam.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah.
Buy a new cam for Reef for Christmas, y'all.
That would be nice. But let's I might just have to pull it off of the USB hub. I think that's part of the problem. But anyway,
Yeah. So
you have more to this story, I think.
yeah, I do. It's a long article, so and yeah, I think we're just about a little more than half of it through by now.
Okay.
So anyway, let's continue. Let me go back just to what happened? Hold on.
You went back one?
Yeah, I went back one just to check.
Okay. Oh, you can't see when I do that, can you? How about that?
Yeah. Is that
Next page is what you want. Pretty
I
sure.
read this.
Yes.
Yeah, I read this already. Okay.
There you go.
Anyway, continue. I would spend years investigating the bases David claims didn't exist. You said leaked secret documents. I shed light on a network of African drone bases integral to US assassination programs on the continent, as well as the existence of a secret network of National Security Agency eavesdropping outposts in Ethiopia. Using formerly secret documents, I revealed an even larger network of US bases across Africa again and again. I use little notice open source information to highlight activities at those facilities while helping exposing murder and torture by local forces at a drone base in Cameroon built up and frequented by Americans. I also spotlighted the construction of a $100 million drone base in Niger, a previously unreported outpost in Mali apparently overrun by militants after a 2012 coup there by a US-trained officer, the expansion of a shadowy drone base in the Horn of Africa, and its role in lethal strikes against the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, hundreds of drone strikes from Libya to Somalia and the resulting civilian casualties, and a flailing US war on terror all across Africa. Not surprisingly, AFRICOM's website had never had so much to say about such reporting. No, you could go there to find articles like the CARICOM files, Pentagon unaccounts ignores military sexual assault in Africa. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it works there now, right?
Yeah.
But just not no BS. Okay, that's fine.
Pentagon document shows U.S. knew of credible reports of civilian casualties after its attacks in Somalia. New data shows the U.S. military is severely undercounting civilian casualties in Somalia. Pentagon stands by Cameroon despite forensic analysis showing its soldiers executed women and children. U.S. troops in Africa might be in danger. Why is the military trying to hide it? You know you're on target when you're getting a lot of flax. In the years since, a parade of AFRICOM press officials came and went, replying in a by-van familiar fashion. Nick, we're not going to respond to any of your questions. Lieutenant Commander Anthony Falco, Falfo, I guess, head of its public affairs branch, told me in October 2017. Did he, I asked, believe AFRICOM needed to address questions from the press in general or only from me? No, just you, he replied. We don't consider you a legitimate journalist, really. Then he hung up.
Crazy.
Oh, God. That same month, I was inadvertently ushered behind the closed doors of the CARICOM Public Affairs Office. While attempting to hang up on me, a member of the staff accidentally put me on speakerphone, and suddenly I found myself listening in to the goings-on from banal banter to shrieking outbursts. And believe me, it wasn't pretty. While the command regularly claimed its personnel had the utmost respect for their local counterparts, I discovered, for example, that at least certain press officers appeared to have a remarkable low opinion of some of their African partners. Doesn't surprise me at all. At one point, Fowler asked if there were any new intelligence regarding military operations in Niger after the 2017 ambush that killed those 4 American soldiers. You can't put Nigerians and intelligence in one sentence, in the same in the same sentence, replied someone in the office. Laughter followed, and I published the story details. That very month, Anthony Fowler shipped off, literally ending up in the public affairs office of the USS General Ford.
What did I do? I think I scrolled.
You went back. Yeah. Next
there
one.
we go.
There we go. Thank you. Today, a new coterie of AFRICOM public affairs personnel field questions, but Fowler's successor, Deputy Director of Public Affairs John Manley, a genuine professional, seems to be on call whenever my questions are especially problematic. He swears this isn't true, but I'm sure you won't be shocked to learn that he fielded my inquiries for this article. After Colonel Tom Davis, who left CARICOM to join Special Ops Upper Command, where in a private email he called me a turkey, failed to respond to my failed to respond to my interview requests. I asked AFRICOM if this defer and deny system was the best way to inform the American public. We're not going to comment on processes and procedures in place a decade ago or provide opinions of personnel who worked in the office at that time, said Manley. Our response is to provide timely, accurate, and transparent responses to inquiries received from all members of the media, Manley told me. Yes, me, the reporter who's been waiting since 2012 for answers about those U.S. bases. And by CARICOM standards, AFRICOM standards, maybe that's not really so long, given its endless failures in quelling terrorism and promoting stability in places like Burkina Faso, Libya, and Somalia. Common theme tonight, it seems.
What, all of our military hands, like, you know?
Military hands all over the place, going in countries in the name of stability, and you're making the countries worse.
Yes.
So
well, ours is failing.
Right. Still, I give Manley and Law credit. He isn't thin-skinned or afraid to talk, and he does offer answers, although sometimes they seem so far-fetched that I can't believe he uttered them with a straight face. Though he agreed to discuss his replies further, I doubted that badgering him will get either of us anywhere. So I just let his last one stand as a digital monument to my 10-year relationship with AFRICOM. When I asked if the Public Affairs Office had always been as forthright, and helpful with my inquiries as possible, he unleashed a perfect capstone to my decade-long dance with the U.S. Africa Command by offering up just one lone word: yes. Oop.
It's like, have you lied as much previously?
Right.
Yeah. Pretty much. Like, okay. Sure.
So I did some very quick research. I actually want to just check.
Okay.
Something.
Yeah.
Because I believe someone did this in, there you go, you're working now.
Yeah, I found it.
Like, I think someone asked in some stream how many bases we had in,
like,
you know, everywhere in comparison to like Russia. And I looked it up quickly, and I believe that 24 Russian bases globally.
Okay.
Let's play a game. How many bases based on this article, because this article does not say, or Nick didn't get any information as far as how many bases do you guys have on the continent. Who wants to take a guess? So let's do it the Price is Right style. Like, who wants to take a guess and see how many bases there are in Africa without going over? Let's play this game.
So what we could do is, like, let's do, can we look up, like,
without looking online, without looking online or checking. Let's see in the chat how many people. So Yipper says 0 to 500. Okay. Reef, what do you think without looking online?
Yeah, I'm not looking online for that. I was looking at, like, what South America has. You know?
So Warren's like 376. Gira said 200.
76 are in Latin America.
Okay. US bases.
So yes. And like 800 around the world that we know of.
Right.
So I guarantee you there's probably at least 50. I would imagine.
Any other guesses? Any other guesses?
Jarrah says 200.
Yeah.
0 to 500 says yep. Okay.
Yeah. Well, Yipper says 58. Well, again, we don't entirely know for sure. I'm just, like given what I've seen, because it could be a lot more than what is being reported. But let me double check. But
Survey
there are at
says
least,
yeah.
I'm saying at least 29 US bases in Africa, which even that seems low.
You like my Steve Harvey
but
laugh?
this is according to the Pentagon that they're 29. So
Steve Harvey literally yucks.
Right. So
straight up.
But again, all that to say, again, we're not talking about this. Again, I didn't know AFRICOM was connected to the US. Again, part of my ignorance. But the idea, Nick Truss basically has been on their asses for the last decade and basically asking simple questions in terms of how many bases you got, in terms of the military coups essentially that they're doing in Africa, and they gave him the runaround for a decade, basically we're not going to answer you.
Yeah.
So I think if there's if the fact that even what he shared is just the surface of what he ended up finding out from his reporting, there probably is there is a lot more shit that is happening, and I'm sure there's more bases in Africa than what is being reported. But
the
again,
United States
just
has
like Haiti,
29 known military
I'm saying
facilities.
at least. I'm saying at least, because I'm sure there's more.
In the continent, there's known to be 29 already.
Right. At least. I'm holding to that, at least.
Yeah.
So, but again, it just kind of shows, similar to Haiti, US is getting their little fingers in Africa, for the resource or whatever, in the guise of, we're going to stabilize the countries or whatever. We're going to prevent, crime or whatever else. And then they aren't doing shit other than terrorizing and making, more war. So, so actually, this was
speaking
actually
of Latin America.
Yeah. So this was actually a very good article. So thank you, Reef, for
You're
sharing
welcome.
that. And I think actually this might be a person that I'm going to follow. I actually did follow him on Twitter. And actually probably will click this and, just tag him to this. But again, this the idea of our presence in the world, especially in terms of war, is a lot more secretive than I believe we realize. And I think this article is basically proving of our hand basically everywhere, that to the point where they're not even talking about it. I think it's just very concerning given, given what we've already kind of talked about in Haiti and other countries. Yeah, you're saying it's about competing. Exactly.
China.
It's because
which
China,
we'll get into
especially
in a little bit.
Yeah. And China is definitely growing in its influence over there. So I think, especially in East Africa. So
and
the
Russia
idea of in
well.
Russia. So the idea of America is just there just to kind of monitor, But again, all that to say is what's happening in Ukraine. I mean, it's happening already. It's happening in Somalia already. Again, no one's talking about that. Ilhan Omar. Why are you not talking about that? That's your damn country.
Yeah, Ilhan. Your country.
But
God.
But aside, this is their way of kind of monitoring the situation in the event that there could be something like another proxy war a la Ukraine, in the guise of China. So thinking back to what Fetterman said, at his debate, in his mind, our biggest threat is China. Can definitely be true if you're thinking of Africa in terms of how China has a growing presence in the country. Now, to be fair, and I've said this, I'm kind of mixed on China's presence in Africa, but again, you can it's a very more nuanced issue, especially for talking to people on the ground who are not necessarily appreciating Chinese being there and kind of overtaking their jobs over them, essentially. And then all their resources is going into China and not necessarily, into the countries that they're in per se. or Chinese are supervising those projects over Africans over there. But no love for China either in this regard. But the argument is that China is actually developing infrastructure versus America is looking to cause war.
And steal resources.
Right.
Yes.
So you can argue China too in a way.
What